We're going to do a quick little quiz because I think this for me was incredibly helpful in, again, understanding just my own energy levels. So probably most of you know about an introvert versus an extrovert. We also have ambiverts. They're somewhere in the middle. And what the difference between being an introvert and an extrovert is really the extroverts get energized when they're around other people. It's really, it energizes them. They feel more alive. They feel more awake when they're around other people. And it has to do with their neurochemistry. And introverts feel very drained being around people for a long period of time, or I should say, for more than a very short period of time. And it just depends on how introverted you are. And it's just, you feel drained. I used to know that when I was still kind of engaged in the world and I had a boyfriend and we would go to parties and I would just say, please, can we leave early? I can't stay beyond 10 o'clock. In fact, I would have loved to have just stayed for 30 minutes. And I'm happy for that first 30 minutes and seeing everyone, but then my energy just gets drained. And so I know that about myself. And for a long time, I didn't understand that. And it was Susan Cain's book. And I think someone mentioned too, she has a TED Talk about understanding the neurochemistry of introverts and extroverts, of what energizes us and what drains our energy. And so knowing that, it was really helpful to know it's not like there's something wrong with me. It's just, this is my neurochemistry. I can't change that. And quite frankly, if I didn't have that neurochemistry, I can't imagine living this type of lifestyle that I live, that I could be so on my own so much of the time, that I like the silence, that I like the introspection. I wouldn't like it if I was an extrovert. So I'm very grateful to it now. So introverts, we know we have limited amounts of energy, limited amounts of time that we can be around people. We refuel being on our own. Maybe it's just sitting on the sofa reading a good book, but just that silence, the quiet is how we refuel. And an extrovert, to be energized, they need to be around people. Being on their own depletes their energy. So that's helpful in understanding what they need in their life in order to feel balanced, in order to feel good. But an ambivert can be a little bit tricky because an ambivert can sometimes really want to go and be the life of the party and party all night. But then there are times when they feel pretty good just being at home on their own. So ambiverts need to be a little bit more cautious in setting their boundaries. Introverts and extroverts, or those of us that fall closer along those lines, we can be a little clearer. We can understand a little bit better what it is that we need. Ambiverts, you got to watch yourselves. You've got to know that, okay, I am actually scheduling a little bit too much. There is a point I can get burnt out here. I do just need to schedule that downtime in. And even extroverts at some point do need a little bit of downtime as well, just not very much. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to just read these questions. It's just 7 questions. And just for you to answer between 1 and 5, and we'll just tally it up in the end. Probably most of you know where you fall. Some of you might be a little bit surprised. So a 1 is you don't agree. A 2, slightly agree. 3, sometimes agree. 4, mostly agree. 5, strongly agree. So, 1 being don't agree at all the way up to 5 to strongly agree. First question. I typically feel drained after socializing. 1, you don't agree with that. 5, you very much agree with that. And anything in between. 2, I'm going to go rather quickly because I think these are pretty simple questions, and just go with your gut, whatever your gut's telling you to go with. Just the thought of socializing makes me uncomfortable and looking for a way out. 1, you don't agree at all. 5, you strongly agree with that statement. 3, I love having a weekend without any plans. 1, you don't agree at all with that statement. 5, you strongly agree. 4, I prefer spending time alone. 1, I don't agree. 5, I strongly agree. 5, when socializing, I prefer to sit back and observe rather than being the center of attention. 1, you don't agree. 5, you strongly agree. 6, I enjoy deep, meaningful conversations over small talk. 1, you don't agree. Up to 5, you strongly agree. 7, I prefer to have a small group of close friends versus a large social circle. 1, you don't agree at all. 5, you strongly agree. So if you scored anywhere between 28 and 35, so you were strongly agreeing with those statements, you feel pretty drained by social interaction. And just to Olga's point here, it's not that introverts are antisocial. I mean, it's literally like after 30, 40 minutes, it's like you feel like you've just gotten off a 7-hour flight. Like you just feel drained. It's our neurochemistry. And introverts also aren't necessarily shy. Not all introverts are shy. And so it's also important to remember, just because you're not shy, I'm not a particularly shy person, but I'm definitely an introvert. And sometimes people misconstrue that. And so it's just the best definition of an introvert is that you feel drained being around people for long periods of time, right? Yeah, and even Alice saying you can spend a couple of hours with a dear friend and feel drained even then, right? But it's worth it, right? And sometimes, like, it is worth it, right? Like sometimes it's like, I want to spend some time with that person, but also, thank you for saying that, Alice, because that also, like, if I am going to go spend some time with someone and it's someone I love and they really are dear to me, but I know not to have anything on the other side of that. At the end of that, I need some recovery time, right? So thank you for reminding me of that. It's about our energy, right? So it's just really important that we understand that and it's our neurochemistry. We can't change that about ourselves. And also, just to be clear, we need introverts in the world. We're very introspective. If you scored between 28 and 35, you are likely an introvert. It's good for you to know that you need lots of downtime. If you're going to have social interactions, limit them. Put a time limit on them. I always do that. If we're going to get together, let's get together from 4 to 5:30. Have an end time. I need to know that end time, and I cannot have anything on the other side of it. So it's just important that we understand that we have to space things out, and just to make sure that we're always managing our energy levels there. An ambivert, if you're between 14 and 27, and again, give or take, you're likely an ambivert. So again, for ambiverts, you've got to be a little bit careful with this. Sometimes you want to be the life of the party, and great. But if you're feeling it's too much, you're feeling overwhelmed, just knowing you're an ambivert, you're like, oh yeah, the introvert side's coming out a little bit. Okay, I need a little downtime. It's like we stop fighting these modes. It's like, oh yeah, this is what's going on with my neurochemistry. Yeah, this is what I need. It's okay. So again, keep some flexibility in your schedule, and just be okay with either way, knowing that you can go either way. And then an extrovert, you probably scored somewhere around 7 to 13. And so while extroverts do love being around people, you're energized by being around people, there is a point to where you can get too burnt out, where it can just become too much as well, being pulled in too many different directions. And so just being mindful of that. And also really thinking about as an extrovert, the ways in which you are engaging socially. In fact, all of us to be thinking about this because, and I do love to see when all of you guys know each other on here, because this is a spiritual community, and our spiritual community, in fact, there's a line in the Pali Canon, in the Buddhist Sutras, where Ananda and the Buddha are having a conversation. And Ananda is the Buddha's attendant, and they always kind of have these things where Ananda will say something to the Buddha, as in this situation, he says to the Buddha, I think having spiritual friends is really helpful in our practice. And the Buddha kind of admonishes Ananda, and he says, it's not just helpful, Ananda, it is the most important thing. So he'll always it's just kind of funny the way they have these interactions. And so, our spiritual friends, who we hang out with, who we associate with, very much reflects what's important to us. And having spiritual friends and engaging with spiritual friends. So again, whether you're doing it here, just on a live session, on Insight Timer, maybe some of you have some local sanghas, or maybe some of each other, you guys live close by. Having spiritual friends, I agree, is the most important thing in our practice. Because who we hang out with, right, mirrors the things that we're doing, the types of activities that we're engaging in. It really supports us in our practice. So for extroverts, just to be thinking about that, okay, if you're going to get your social engagement, really try to be doing it with spiritual friends as much as you can. And if you don't have any, then really look in ways to find more spiritual friends to hang out with. I think you'll find the quality of your time together is far better. And it really does have an overall reflection on our path and our practice and our peace. And I'm just going to hop back to, I think, Lisa, yeah. So you think you're an extrovert, but you can't handle being around your family because they drain you. Also, I set boundaries so that I'm barely ever around them, and I've told my mother why, but she still doesn't understand and is still behaving the same, which is abusively. So what do? I tried to shorten my time with her and give her excuses because that's the only way she seems to respect the boundary. So again, just because we've set a boundary with someone doesn't mean that they're going to honor it. A lot of the time they will, but there will be situations where it's just not in their capacity to be able to honor it. And so it's important in those situations to just maintain your boundaries, to not feel that resentment towards her. She's the result of her causes and conditions, as you are the result of your causes and conditions. And to try your best to keep her in your heart, hold her in your heart, trying to have understanding of the fact that she's not honoring your boundaries, like she's maybe scared of losing you. It's probably coming from some place of fear. I would argue it probably is coming from some place of fear. And just to continue to be firm in the boundaries that you've set. So yeah, if you're going to see her okay, I'm coming over, but I'm just coming over for 45 minutes. And if she's going on, why won't you spend more time? I've told you why. I've made it clear. It's not healthy for me to stay there for long periods of time. I have asked you certain things. I don't know what the context is. You can reiterate a couple of times, and then you can just refer back. I've told you why. I'm not going to keep going through this. I love you, Mom. I'm going to come see you, but it's just for 30 minutes. So I hope that we have a good time together for those 30 minutes. And so it's just for us to really honor what it is that we're willing to do. It doesn't mean that they're going to honor it. And we don't want to feel resistance, and we don't want to feel like we're pushing back on it. And because then when we do see them, there's still just more, we're reactive. We're kind of feeling defensive when we're there. We're just waiting for them to say something because we've been repeating it in our heads all afternoon. So one other thing, and I forgot to mention, and it's in the PDF, and it is also part of the heart opening practices, is also saying the Buddhist forgiveness prayer. As all of you know, I say this prayer every day. I've said this for at least 9 or 10 years now. Every day. This prayer is so powerful. For anyone that I have harmed, either knowingly or unknowingly, through my own confusions, fears, and desires, I ask for your forgiveness. For anyone that has harmed me, either knowingly or unknowingly, through their own confusions, fears, and desires, I forgive them. If there is anything I am not yet ready to forgive, I forgive myself for that. And for all the little ways I harm myself, negate, doubt, belittle, judge, and criticize, I forgive myself for that too. Right? So saying this prayer over and over and over is so helpful. And it might be something where you're not yet ready to forgive, but by saying that third verse, for anything I'm not yet ready to forgive, I forgive myself for that. You are still practicing forgiveness. You are still practicing. So I'll refer you, Christine, if you go on my teacher's page, there's a group called Sangha, and I just recently posted it in there. And it is part of the PDF on my website. Yeah. It is a powerful, powerful prayer. We often, with forgiveness, it's a practice. It's a daily practice. And people think you can kind of sporadically do it and be forgiving. You got to say those words every single day. And those words, there is so much wisdom. We're asking for forgiveness because we've all done stuff. And I always reflect as I'm saying that first verse. I have disappointed people. I have hurt people. It's never my intention. More of it was when I was a little bit rebellious as when I was younger. But even now, of course, there's times, right? We all do. We're all going to hurt people, even if it's not our intention. And so I reflect on that to make sure that, I'm remembering, I've hurt people too. I've disappointed too, right? And then in the second verse, where we're forgiving others for the very same things, like we've hurt people because of confusion, fear, and desire, the ego, right? And other people have hurt us because of confusion, fear, and desire, the ego, same thing. But sometimes there's something that's just too big to forgive. And in that situation, we have the third verse and that fourth verse, because we know how harsh we are with ourselves. We know how horrible, for all the little ways I harm myself, negate, doubt, belittle, judge, and criticize. I forgive myself for that too. And the more that we say that last line as well, you catch yourself more when you're doing it. You don't judge yourself for belittling yourself or judge yourself for judging yourself. I forgive myself. I'm human. Yeah. Oh, and paint a picture of flowers and put it on your fridge, Kimmy. That's beautiful. Yeah. It's a powerful prayer. So, okay, one more quick thing. I'm just going to go through and read about 30 words. And I just want you to kind of think of the words that really stick in your mind that describe best about how you want your life to feel. Okay, so I'm going to go rather quickly, but you don't have to write down every word, just kind of any word that picks up. Peaceful, engaged, busy, spacious, excited, tranquil, quiet, open, spontaneous, free, active, daring, purposeful, harmonious, steady, balanced, adventurous, slow. That's just to give you a little bit of an idea, to kind of frame in a little bit of how you really want your life to look, how you want your life to feel. Yeah, so all except busy and fast didn't resonate with you. Yeah, it's just good to remind ourselves too, like, how do I want this to look? Spacious, open, tranquil, balanced, harmonious. But you might want some adventurous in there, right? And then also any other words that come to mind. I was going to update and actually add a few more words on here. Courageous. Thank you, V. That's a good one. I don't have a pen right here, but that's a good one. I'm going to add that to the list. So it's good, yeah, add any words, but it kind of starts to get you in that frame of mind. Creative, that's a great one too. I don't know why, hang on, I do have a pen here. I'm going to write those down to add on. Authentic. Oh, thank you. See, now I'm writing all the words down. These are genuine, love it, and courageous. Yeah, so it starts to give you a frame. Yeah, balanced. Starts to give you a frame for like, yeah, what do I want my life to look like? Instead of letting life, mindful. Yes, thank you. I will update that for the next Setting Boundaries workshop. Thanks, you guys. But again, like noticing how when we're thinking about it, like with a clean slate. Oh, grateful. Thank you, Rish. I didn't see that. Grateful. Yeah, I should have that on there. So it's really good to just really have that clean slate. Forgiving and loving. I'm going to put this down. Yep. To know, like, how do I want, compassionate. Thank you, V. Yeah. How do I want my life to look? Probably I should, in fact, what I started to do yesterday, and I was going to add, we've got purposeful on there, yeah. I was going to do a separate page of values, because some of these are kind of getting a little into values. They kind of overlap a little bit, but then I forgot how to add it to the PDF on my website, so I didn't do it. I'll figure that out later. In any case, but what's helpful for us is to just have this clean slate and to think about, like, okay, these are the things that are important to me. So now as we go to filling out our terms of engagement, now we can keep this in mind, whether you're an introvert, an ambivert, an extrovert, and then these words, just kind of having them there as, again, just a little bit more keeping us in line with, yeah, this is what I want. It's so easy for us to say, like, I want peace in one moment, and then we just wander off doing something else. Or to say, I want tranquility, I want to be more compassionate, more forgiving, and then go back and go chasing off after something else. So it's really about keeping us in line, reminding us, this is what we want, this is what's most important. So how do we be, hang on, I just want to ask, first of all, I just want to acknowledge Kimmy putting that terms of engagement on the fridge too is great, absolutely. And you can think about the art. And then V, how do you be more aligned with these? It's not like this instantaneous, just because these are your values or this is how you want to feel, that you'll instantaneously walk your values, right? It's easy to talk the talk. The walking it is a gradual process, and it really has to do with our entire practice, right? About being, absolutely reviewing our terms of engagement often, reminding ourselves what we want, right? You've been to my classes before, right? The question that I ask in most meditations, what is it that's most important? And then we ask the follow-up question, what could you be doing more of or less of that would move you closer to this, right? So really trying to look for ways to get our actions to be aligning with our intentions. And then at the same time, our meditation practice, our mindfulness practice, coming into the heart, all of these things, and being really clear about the ethical part of our practice as well, right? Really really being honest with ourselves. I mean, one of the helpful things on a Buddhist path is that we take vows. And at the very basic of the 5 precepts, I will not kill or harm. I will not steal or take that which is not freely offered. I will not engage in sexual misconduct. And what that means basically as a lay person is, not to commit adultery, not to have sex that's no consent. I will not lie, and I will not take intoxicants. The vows helping me to be more aligned to my path. So you can also consider whether these vows would help you or not. They're trainings. They're not like, oh no, you had a drink of wine and so you're damned. It's a training. It's to try and help you to stay true to the path. But I will tell you the second precept, I will not steal or take that which is not freely offered. That second part really helped me. And in fact, even when I was still working in the corporate world, and I can remember just thinking like I was going to email someone and thinking like, this is company time. That's stealing. And how, we all used to think it was totally fine to just take whatever stationery or paper clips or steal, whatever it was that we needed, to take them to go home. I'm like, that's stealing. Or on our taxes, where we think, I could just fudge a little bit here. No one will know. It's stealing. And it's really important for us to, recognize what's my integrity worth? Saving $500 on my taxes? It's really important that we think about these things. And so having vows, I find really has been helpful. But again, it's the whole part of the path. Your meditation practice, your mindfulness practice, coming into your heart, saying beautiful prayers like the forgiveness prayer. And I also mention, I always say the prayer of St. Francis as well. Being mindful, being forgiving ourselves, saying the forgiveness prayer. All of these things help align us with our values and really keep us true to our path. And the terms of engagement, I find, is really a document that also just by writing it out, what's important to you, and then how your life is going to look around that, really fine-tuning all of it. So let's jump into the terms of engagement. So I hope that helps, V, okay? Okay, first question, and I'll type these in as well. And I'll give you my answers so that you can also just have a little bit of an idea. So the first question, probably no surprise for those of you that have been with me, what's most important to you, right? Peace. Peace of mind is most important. But then I also list some other things. So peace, but my spiritual path, that is also important. So it's not like we're saying just one thing here, like in the meditation. And I also have done here, my dogs are important to me. I have 3 rescue dogs. I love them to pieces, and I love dogs. My family is important, and a few close relationships. So I have 5 things listed there, and it's important for me to know what's most important. But peace is the number one. My spiritual path, peace, I would kind of put them on the same level. They're really one and the same. So I'll just type that in. I'm just going to give you a little bit of time. You can come back and complete this a little bit more later. But just to give you a good start with this, okay? So the second question is, what do you need to feel your best? And so for me, I've written down, I need space in my day. I need quiet. I need nature, my dogs, healthy food, meditation, contemplation, yoga. These are all things that are important to me to feel my best. So it'll be a little different for you. But we need to know these questions. We need to know the answers to what it is that makes us feel our best. So the next question, what makes you truly happy? And it could be something on the external. It could be something, again, just saying, being alone, being quiet, being with your dogs. For me, I put down being awake. That is what makes me truly happy. Space in my day, quiet, all of those things adds to it to set those conditions, but being awake. So next question, which I think we all know the answer to. Are you an introvert, extrovert, or an ambivert? What kinds of activities do you enjoy engaging with others? Oh, and I didn't mention, probably you guys all know I'm an introvert. So for activities, again, I love going for long walks. I like doing yoga. I like going freediving, kite surfing sometimes, cooking and gardening. So I have it listed. These are the kinds of things that I like to do. It's again, we should know like what kinds of activities do we like to engage in. So the next question, in what ways do you enjoy engaging with others? Right? And this is just important to know, like, how do you like to meet up with others? We are social creatures. We do want to have relationships. We want to have friendships. How does that look for you? For me, I like going for walks with others, right? If someone wants to engage, I love going for walks on my own, but if someone wants to get together, I'll say, let's go for a walk. Let's go diving together, or helping. And that's a big one for me. Is a really big one. I'll always say to people too when I'm declining an invitation, like I'll say like, thank you so much for inviting me. I so appreciate being included, but I just don't go out at night, or I'm just creating a little more space in my day right now. But if you need help, I'm there for you. I am a good bad weather friend. And I genuinely mean that. So don't say anything you don't genuinely mean. But I really, like, to me, I do need engagement with others. No matter how introverted we are, we do need it. But that truly fills me up, helping someone. So I have this one in here. I'd probably take this one out now, but it's in the PDF. So, how important is socializing to you? I mean, it is kind of helpful just to know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not important at all, 10 very important. For me, it's very low. It's about a 2 or a 3. But it is there. We do need socialization. We still need it. And next question, do you need any boundaries around socializing? If so, where, what, who? So for me, around socializing, it is a maximum of once a week. So that includes if I'm going for a walk with if I'm going for a walk with someone, or if I'm going diving with someone, even if I am, say, meeting someone for coffee, even though I would rarely do that, but once a week is really the max that I can fit in my schedule. But it has to be around an activity. The helping, there's not a limitation on that. I mean, there is a limitation in that I do have only so much time, but if someone needed my help on Monday and then someone needed it on Thursday, I would do both of those things. Okay, so the next question, what activities would you put time on? Meaning setting a boundary with time. For me, all of them. All of them. If I'm going for a walk, We have a start time. I will put an end time. If we're going diving, I will put a start time. I will also put an end time. If I'm having a phone call with someone, I might not say this to them, that there's a set time, but in my mind, I will know it's going to be 40 minutes or 30 minutes, right? That we when we set things up, everyone's good on the time start, but there's always this kind of wishy-washiness around the end. And as an introvert, I need to be careful of my energy on there. I want to engage. I want the quality to be good. But if the time goes on for too long, I know I'm going to start to drag. I know I'm going to start to feel, I'm going to feel drained. Okay, so next question, what qualities do you value in a friendship? And this is a really important thing for us because our friendships often just develop and we don't even realize then sometimes like what are the values that we really, or what are the qualities that we really value in a healthy friendship? So, for me, kindness, honesty, authenticity, and independence. I can't have it's not good for the other person if they need a lot of my time because I'm not that type of a friend that's going to want to talk on the phone once a week even or get together even once a week. My closest friends, I don't need to see them that often. Cactus friends like me. Yeah. And honesty, like that's really important. And kindness, very important in a friendship. Doesn't mean that someone can't have an off day. Of course they can. We're not trying to be so rigid and go, oh my God, you stepped outside the bounds. Like we want to use some wisdom in there, right? Integrity. Yeah, Monica. Absolutely. No gossiping. Yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute. Okay. What relationships are the most important to you? And how do you want to nurture them? I think this is also a good proactive way to understand like which relationships are important. Instead of just letting all the ones just kind of come in and just take over, which ones do you value? Okay, so which kinds of technological communication do you prefer? And I have this on here because there's just too many ways that people can contact us, and it can be overwhelming. And I have just, my preference is WhatsApp. And the reason that I like WhatsApp is that I can send voice clips, and I do this with clients too. I'll send them voice clips. I don't have to sit there and type something out. I don't have to be looking at a screen. I can just, so my eyes can be off the screen, in fact, and just communicate speaking, which I like that. And in fact, Tay and Gail, my dearest friends, they send me voice clips. And it's nice because I can just put it down, hear their voice, and it's a nice way to check in. But I'm not going to, like if someone sends me a message on Facebook Messenger, I won't see it for a week because I go on once a week. I'll just put whatever video I'm uploading and then I get off. I don't engage on it at all. And I'll say to people on there like, hey, I just am barely on here. If you do need to get a hold of me, email me, email or WhatsApp. Yeah. And Monica, yeah, I love voice clips. Yeah. Okay, this one's very specific for me. I'll be curious to see if my fellow introverts feel the same way. What kinds of communication do you wish to avoid, and what are the consequences of doing it? So actually, that's a good one on FaceTiming, yes. For me, it's just voice calls. Like when people say, oh, let's just catch up. Like, no, I find voice calls just exhausting, just being on the telephone. I really don't enjoy it. I really don't enjoy it. My mom, I'll definitely do calls with my mom. She's really good though, because I really can limit it. She's totally cool with that. But, and the reason I put in there the consequences, because I struggled. It was a while, several years back, where I realized like I was so resistant to voice calls, but I felt like, what can I say? That sounds so horrible to tell someone I don't want to do a voice call. And I remember when a friend who I used to work with, 20 years ago at Merrill Lynch, and we were friends for a long time. I worked in the financial industry for a long time. And he's a good friend, dear friend, we were good friends, dear friends. And every now and then he'll send me a text, and it's nice, and I'll just send him back like, hey, glad to hear things are going well. And he'd reached out and said, hey, let's get together for a phone call and catch up. And I just didn't want to do it. I remember just thinking, I don't want to do it, but how am I going to tell him this? And I responded back like, that's just not part of my life these days. Just taking time out to be on phone calls. I just don't do phone calls much these days. Like I love these little check-ins every now and then, and this is enough for me. And he took it really well, so I was lucky. He did take it really well. And that really gave me the confidence with other people when they would say like, well, let's just, like everyone just, and we'll get to this in a minute where we talk about like, you can only have so many close friends, but just because you know someone does not mean that we can keep in touch with everyone, because something is going to pay the price. Something's going to pay the price. If every day we're on phone calls and back and forth, just a lot of texting, like it's just too much. It's just too much. And so it is important. And why I put the other thing, like what are the relationships that really are important that matter to me? Not that there's not other people that don't matter to me, but the ones that I want to nurture. But I can't keep up with this. I can't keep up with really more than 4 or 5 close friends. And phone calls just for me, like I really understood. And in fact, what you're saying, Olga, this is exactly what it was. If it's a quick phone call and it's a quick little just, hey, what's going on? Great. What I find is eventually it does turn into some type of gossip or superficial conversation. And I just don't want to engage in that. I don't want to engage in that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'll read this and then type it out. What boundaries would you put around types of conversations and language you don't want to engage in? Political, gossip, COVID, vulgarity, flirty, negative, derogatory speech. That's an important one because, and this is a difficult, I'll just type it in real quick and then. This is a really important one. Yeah, and just negative talk. Yeah, Rose. So those are just kind of some pointers, but anything else that you think of, constant complaining. Yeah. We should be clear. And not that we can't give our best friend or a friend even the benefit of the doubt. They might need a little bit of complaining. They've had a big disappointment. Something's happened. Like, okay, no problem. Like, we all have that moment. We just want to get it off our chest. And maybe we want to get it off with a good friend that we know that's like, hey, I just want to say this. I want to get it off my chest and then be done with it. But when it's always complaining, when they're never, it's not about just getting it off their chest. It's just this constant complaining. Like, yeah, I think it's okay to say something at that point, to say like, hey, I adore you, but, let's talk about something else. I feel like we're just kind of going over these same things again and again. And I just want to know, what's going right in your life. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to connect. And this is just starting to become a bit of a wedge for us, right? It's okay to tell people. I had a client, actually not a client, but someone from Insight Timer who's been reaching out to me a lot, just needing some advice. And he told me that one of his friends finally said to him that it's like, because he just couldn't let go of his divorce. He just couldn't let go. It was, and I feel so bad for him because it was really tough and with 2 young girls. But his friend finally said, like, you've got to let this go, like, or our friendship isn't going to survive this. And that was a good wake up for him. He needed to hear that, right? And he heard it in a good way. Like, yeah, I need to let go of this. So it's okay. Sometimes how will people know if we don't tell them? So I think it's really good for us to be able to, and again, we'll get to some of the verbiage in a minute, but to know that we can speak up and say these things. I'm not comfortable. especially, I got to say, around the whole COVID thing, because there's such disparaging comments about whatever side someone's on, disparaging the other side. And I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be engaged in that. I'm not going to put down anyone for their views or beliefs. They believe what they believe. They're their causes and conditions. Who am I to judge them? And I'm just not going to get engaged in that. If it's political and it's just, again, disparaging, I'm not going to engage in that either. There's no benefit in that. So, or religion. Did I not put religion on there? I should put religion on there. Thank you, Olga, for bringing that up. Because some people don't want to discuss that. And maybe if it's something, especially if it's someone that's kind of pushing their religious views on you, right? And it's good for us to know that, right? Like, hey, I'm glad for you that you're following your path. I'm following mine too. So, and just from Olga, a lot of people can't talk about certain topics like COVID, politics, or religion without trying to convince you that your view is wrong. Yes. In fact, that would really be the deciding factor in most conversations around COVID, politics, religion. If the conversation can only be that I have to take on your views, then that's not an interesting conversation. There's no exchange, there's no back and forth, right? And that's just such a strong attachment to needing to be right. And that's just, I'm not going to have a conversation with someone's ego about that because there's nothing to learn. There's no growth in conversations like that. Yeah, and some people do feel it's normal to complain every day. But again, like we were talking about before, if someone's complaining and you are listening to that every day, you're still getting pulled in some way into the complaining mode because you're probably pushing back on it, thinking now they're complaining about something and now you're kind of in your head complaining about them. It's okay to say, hey, I really appreciate our friendship. You mean the world to me. But it feels like there's a lot of complaining every time we're getting together. And this is creating a wedge for us, and I don't want that. I want to be close to you. Good friends will hear you. Good friends will hear you. If they're not hearing you, then it probably wasn't as good of a friendship as you thought. Yes, Kimmy, and being kind is good, absolutely. But if it goes into being taken for granted, becoming a doormat, then there is no wisdom in our kindness, and we've got to be careful of that. And I like the sign. Alice. No politics, no petitions, no religion. Your home is a place of peace. Yep. You've set the rules. You've got the boundaries on your front door. Great. Okay. What would make you break a boundary? And I think this is good to know in advance. And it's kind of, I don't know that I really do have this listed, but I do have spur of the moment, and if I'm really up for it, spur of the moment, and if someone needs help. What boundaries do you need to have with yourself around social media, YouTube, Netflix, checking the news, checking your phone? This is really good for us to know, right? So for me, and social media doesn't have any draw anyway. I just put on once a week, I go on, I upload whatever class I'm putting on Insight Timer, whatever recording, I put it on Facebook as well. If I'm checking the news, it's only in the afternoon, right? Never in the morning. And in the phone, I always just put check less. Always check less, right? I don't get notifications. And so it's always just to, if it's 4 times a day, let's try to go to 3. If it's 3 times a day, let's try to go to 2. Just always trying to do less. Just being really careful about anything, any of these devices. They're not helping us to be more mindful. They're not helping us to be more peaceful. But they're also useful. We just don't want to become a slave to them. And I just want to echo your sentiment up there too, no hate speech, where you said, Lisa, about the language, and I'm going to write that down, add that to the PDF, because that's a good one. Okay, last question. Okay, and probably sounds a bit redundant, but what boundaries do you need to have in place to make sure you are living a life true to yourself, or living true to yourself, right? And I just put in here just a lot of space in my schedule. Just reiterating, I need a lot of space in my schedule. Don't book anything back to back. It's just these little reminders again, like, yeah, be careful. Like, this is on us, right? That we have to really be careful about how easily we start letting our own boundaries go, right? So we have to be really clear about what it is that we need. And just from Olga, you had a friend who used to call all the time to dump all her drama without even asking if I was in a space for that. It was always the same complaint. So I just cut her off. It was draining for me. Yeah. I mean, there are consequences. And if we don't let them know, like, they're probably not just doing it to you. And it's not like, people need to know there's consequences for this kind of behavior. Like, you're only going to take so much of it. We can only take so much of it. Right? So I think I left on the PDF as well. There's one space left for you to, and of course, fill in more. If there's anything else that you feel you need to set some boundaries for yourself against, how you might be wasting your time, or just anything else that occurs to you, put it down. This is your terms of engagement. This is the document that helps you live a life true to yourself. Right? That helps you be, closer to the peace that you want, the balance, the integrity, the honesty, the authenticity, right? This is what's so important.